Then we can try to reflect, contemplate. Unless we really make effort to find the time and energy to study and practice the Dharma, it doesn't come easily. Because when we are not feeling well, a lot of difficulties, it's not easy. And when the condition, internal, external condition are not good, it's not easy to practice. On the other hand, when all the conditions are good, when everything is going so well, internally, externally, we tend to forget the Dharma, the practice, and get distracted with a lot of worldly things. Either way, whether condition are good or condition are bad, still it's hard to find the time unless we really put effort into practice. By realizing that with our own experience, we should try to make a strong determinations whatever conditions, good or bad, that I will put, try to find a time, energy, resource to study and to practice the Dharma. Because there is nothing more meaningful and beneficial than that. And we are going to practice the Dharma not just only for oneself, but in order to relieve the suffering of all sentient beings as well. And to be able to do that, we need to achieve our highest potential, fully enlightened state as early as possible. And to obtain that fully enlightened state, we need to cultivate highest level of bodhicitta mind and wisdom. And engage in the bodhisattva's practices, path. And in order to engage in that, or at least have some imprint, that's why we have come here together. May our act of coming together, listening together, trying to reflect, contemplate. May all of them become cause and conditions for full enlightenment. Okay. To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the four destroyer, the completely perfect, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, Lord of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offering, and go for refuge. Homage to the Supreme Buddha, homage to the Dharma refuge, homage to the Great Sangha, to all three, give devout homage, to all worthy of respect, bowing with bodies as many as all realms, atoms, in all aspects, with the supreme faith, I pay homage. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions, perform only perfect virtuous action, subdue your mind thoroughly. Thoroughly, this is the teaching of the Buddha, a star, a visual aberration, a flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew, or a bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud condition, sea condition, things as such. Through this merit, may all sentient beings attain the rank of all-seeing, subdue the four of false, and be delivered from samsara's ocean, perturbed by the wave of aging, sickness, and death. Sa-chi-pe-ge chon-shin-me-to ta-re-ra-le-she Nyen-de-nyen-ba-de San-ge-shin-do Mi-de-o-ai Do-gun-nama-ta-shin I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create to listen to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Sangye Jodan Soge Jonama, Chanju Padu Dane, Nagis Sheki Besonam, Dola Benje Sangye Doba, Sangye Jodan Soge Jonam, Chanju Padu Dane, Nagis Sheki Besonam, Dola Benje Sangye Doba. So we have been going through the Lojong practice, and again, the very heart of the Lojong practice, the very essence and very heart of the Lojong practice is to reduce and to eliminate the selfish attitude and to generate and to increase and improve loving kindness, compassion, and bodhicitta mind, as well as to reduce and overcome the self-grasping, fundamental ignorance, by cultivating and developing highest level of wisdom, realizing the ultimate truth or reality. And then all other practice in Lojong are some of them are as a preliminary practice for those practice, and then some of them are as a commitment to so that we can maintain the loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta, and wisdom, and so that we can improve and increase. And so, such as whether it's a commitment, whether it's the advice, and so basically, the whole Lojong practice is kind of the whole Lojong practice is concerned around the two bodhicitta mind, the conventional bodhicitta and ultimate bodhicitta. So so that should be the always the very heart and essence of the Lojong practice, as well as the Buddha's teachings and the practice. So concerning that, then I think in terms of the 7-point of mind training, we are in the last point, the 7th point, that is the advice of the Lojong. And within that, there are 22 advice, or it seems to be 2 different versions, 21 or 22. And within that, I think we have finished last week up to 4th. We finished the 4th advice, and now we are on the 5th one. So 5th one says, God bought at the cost of your life. So we should protect and guard both. So it means there are 2 things that we need to protect and guard as more important and more precious than our own life. For example, in our cases, either we have been asked whether you lose your life or you have to, the doctor say either you have to cut your leg or otherwise you will lose your life. So we'll be willing to cut our leg in order to protect our life, because our life is so precious, or for ordinary beings, ordinary being like us, either you kill that animal or I'm going to kill you. You have these 2 choices, What will be our choice? To protect our life or protect the life of that animal? In most cases, in most of us, those who are still they're not strong practitioners, still at the very beginning, we still doesn't have the real bodhicitta. Probably we will protect our life and willing to take someone's life, such as animal, in order to save your own life. So that is our normal. Here, because when we are engaging both the path, so advice, instruction advice is to, try, at least we have to try, at least we have to have the intention and try to protect those 2 things more important than our own life. And those 2 things are, the general advice of the Buddha's teachings, that is to abandoning the unwholesome actions, harmful, unwholesome actions, and engaging into a beneficial, wholesome actions. That is general kind of advice that Buddha gave, we should always try to engage into beneficial, that is beneficial to others and beneficial to yourself, the virtues, the wholesome actions, and try to engage in that and try to reframe, restrain, or overcome any kind of harmful, that is harmful to others and yourself, harmful, unwholesome, non-virtuous actions. That is the general advice of the Buddha. So that is one of them. We have to hear the advice is to practice that practice as even at the cost of your life, even more precious in your own life, And that advice is the essence of the Buddha's teaching, as we just recite the prayer. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions. Perform thoroughly virtuous actions. So that is, and subdue your mind. That is the teaching of the Buddha. The teaching of the Buddha is to refrain from to engage into any helpful, beneficial actions and refrain from any harmful actions. And to be able to do that, we have to kind of subdue our mind. If our mind is not subdued, then we'll continue to engage in harmful actions. Even we try to refrain, even we wish to refrain from even we try to be beneficial, we are unable to be benefit unless our mind there is some change in our mind, transformation in our mind. Even we don't want to hurt and harm others, if we don't change our mind, we continue to hurt and harm others. And so therefore, so that is the very essence of Buddha teaching. So in terms of action, in terms of behavior, trying to refrain from not engage in a harmful action and engage in a beneficial, helpful actions. So that is one. So and also that is also, kind of the commitment when you take a refuge is, when you take refuge to the Dharma, it's not to engage in action that hurt and harm others, And then the other one is the commitments of the Lojong, because here we are talking about the Lojong practice. So the general Buddha's, advice, and especially here, the Lojong advices and commitments. So both means here that one, the general advice, and this particularly here, when I practice Lojong, the Lojong commitment and Lojong practice. So both mean these two, the general advice of the Buddha, and then specific Lojong advice, Lojong commitments, those both. So, and again, as we have already spoken, the Lojong practice is to engage in the bodhisattva path, to develop bodhicitta mind. And so therefore, if we kind of summarize or take in the essence, is to trying to be helpful, beneficial as much as possible. And if we can't be much help beneficial, at least trying all our best not to hurt and harm others. And trying all our best to reduce the selfish attitude and eliminate them, and to increase and improve, cherishing thought for others, which is loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta mind, as much as possible. Even we cannot fully develop at the moment, even having that kind of inspiration, continue to make prayers, dedications, so that we can be able to actualize the bodhicitta mind, so we can overcome the selfish attitude. If trying, even in our dedication, even in our meditations, even in our prayers, directing everything towards that. So whatever we do in our days, weeks, months, years, whatever we do, trying to do with the intention to be benefit and help to others. Trying to do in order to reduce and minimize the selfish attitude as much as possible. So that is the fifth advice, which when we say both, guard the both at the cost of your life. So, that is a lot of the time, maybe not, okay. Then 6, training the three difficulties. So here, the three difficulties means the difficult in recognizing the afflictive emotions, okay? And so that is first difficult, to be able to recognize and be aware of our afflictive emotions. The second difficult is managing that afflictive emotions. Once you have recognized it, it's not enough. You have to manage that afflictive emotions. And then difficult in managing the afflictive emotions. That is the second difficult. And third difficult is eliminating the afflictive emotions completely. So even we are able to manage the afflictive emotion to some degree, but not being able to eliminate completely, permanently, that is another difficult. So these are the three difficult. So here is saying train. So we have to train in those three difficulties. So first is learning to, whenever any afflictive emotions, whether it's anger, whether it's frustration, whether it's anger, whether it's hatred, whether it's strong attachment, desire, craving, greediness, miserliness, whether it's a strong kind of pride, negative pride, sense of arrogance, jealousy, ignorance, afflictive doubt. So whatever those different negative, harmful, negative feeling, thought, emotion arises, we have to learn to recognize them. Whenever they arises, being aware and recognizing, attachment arises. Frustrations has arises. Now impatience arises. Anger is arising or has arises. So being able to identify, being able to recognize them is important. If we don't, when the afflictive emotion arises, and if we are unable to identify and if we are unable to recognize it, then we will not put effort to take care of it. Because you are not aware, you are in that afflictive or emotions arises. Even you know afflictive emotions is not helpful, is harmful, you don't want to be influenced or controlled by afflictive emotion, but if you are not aware you are in that state, you wouldn't take any actions. So first stage is recognizing, identifying that. And that is where mindfulness practice help us. You know, when you're constantly being mindful of your thoughts, your feeling, your emotions, then you are able to be more aware of that and to be able to recognize and identify. When you are not mindful, you know, we are angry, but we are not aware we are angry, or anger arises, you know. Strong desire have arises, but we are not aware we are strong desire. We are very frustrated, but we are not aware we are frustrated, or frustration arises, impatient, all of that. And so, because if I'm not aware I'm frustrated, when someone say, oh, you are frustrated, I might be very upset, because it feels like someone is accusing you something you are not. Do you get it? Someone might say, oh, you feel, it looks like you are very impatient. And you say, what do you mean by that? You know, I'm patient, I'm okay. You know, I'm not frustrated. A lot of time then we become very defensive. You know, very defensive because we are not aware. A lot of time we are not aware, even though we are impatient, we are frustrated, we are angry, but a lot of time we are not aware of that. And even when someone tries to point it, you know, it becomes hard to accept that. Because basically, a lot of time we are not aware of that. So that is the first difficult point to recognize. And so we have to practice more mindfulness to be able to be more aware, recognizing that, identifying that. So that is the first stage. And to do that, we need training, you know, to be able to kind of learn to be more mindful, learn to watch our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, time to time, even not 24 hours, time to time, you know, what's going in my mind, what's going in my thoughts, what's going in my feelings, you know, and to be able to kind of identify and recognize in what different feelings, different emotions, different thoughts. So through that kind of training, then over the time, then when any afflictive emotion, delusion arises, we will be able to catch immediately, be able to recognize it. It's like your enemy, you know, if enemy has inflated in a war, if you don't recognize the enemy, then you wouldn't try to kind of, you know, defeat that person's, you know, and so therefore that enemy can harm you. The first thing is recognize, oh, there is enemy. And so that is what it is, you know, when you are engaged in the Dharma practice is a battle with the internal enemy or the afflicted emotions, you know. That is what Dharma practice is. The Dharma practice and Lojong practice is engaging not in an external battle with the external enemy, but it is engaging in the internal battle with the internal enemy of defilements, the afflictive emotions. And so recognizing the internal, that enemy is the first step. And second, even you have recognized and identified and aware of that defilement, that afflictive emotion, that internal enemy, it is not enough. The next thing is you have to, manage that. Reduce the power of that enemy. Reduce the power of that enemy so that it cannot hurt you, that it cannot harm you. If you have been able to, in external with the enemy, when you have been able to take all their weapons, everything they have, and make it powerless. So then even they are there, they cannot really kind of hurt you and harm you. They become powerless. They don't have any power. So that is how we kind of manage. So it's not enough just recognizing it. If you don't make it powerless, it will, even you recognize it, still they can hurt and harm you, inflict you pain, sufferings. So next is to make it powerless. And so we try to manage the defilement, afflictive emotion by making it powerless through practice of, for example, meditative concentration, shamatha, loving kindness, compassions, such as practice of equanimity, practice of loving kindness, practice of compassions, practice of, joyfulness, or immeasurable joy. So basically, like such as 4 immeasurable practices. So basically, each of those defilements have a specific meditations practice that can encounter those specific defilements and act as an antidote. For example, for anger, loving kindness, compassions, act as an antidote. For jealousy or envy, the practice of rejoicing in the success of someone, happiness of someone, wealth of someone, goodness of someone, act as an antidote. For the practice of arrogance and pride, meditating on such as your own element, meditating on subtlety of your all different elements, and can be also helpful. So there are different specific meditations that encounter those different emotions, so through that, then you can make the afflictive emotion delusions less powerful. You can reduce them, minimize them, subside them, stop them from manifesting, from becoming powerful. And same with shamatha. When you are in meditative concentration, in the deep meditative concentrations, then because of your practice of in that deep meditation, then it doesn't allow any of those delusions to manifest, arises. So thereby it makes those defilement, afflicting emotion powerless. But again, is yes, I think I saw there's someone caution elements. Yes, elements. What it means is, for example, if we try to think our own element about our within our body, you know, our body is made out of elements, 4 elements, 5 elements, you know, the earth element, water element, fire element, the wind elements, and then you know, the space element if we take 5, but men is 4. So if we really think about each of element, if we try to think everything that is lesser earth element in our body, if you go through each of those from gross to subtle and subtle and subtle, more subtle level, we don't know much about it. For example, even in science, if you are looking with some kind of technology, what our body is made out of, each of them, and you can go smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, each of them, all of that. If we do that, then we don't even know much about our own body. So when you don't know much about your own body, what is there to be so arrogant? You know? So then we begin to realize sometimes when we don't think that, we think we know everything. We feel like, oh, we know everything. Just because we read a little bit here and there, and then we feel like we know everything. And then we feel we can become a kind of arrogant because we feel that we know everything. But here the meditation is when you really analyze, meditate, even on just your body and just element of your body, go more deeper and more subtle and more subtle and more kind of more smaller and smaller particle level and that, and you begin to see, you know, oh, I don't know much about myself, not even my body. I don't know even much about just one organ of my body, you know. Forget about a whole body. Even just if I have to know everything about my heart, I don't know much about it. So when you do that, then you begin to see, oh, you begin to feel, you know, how can I be so arrogant when I don't even know much about my own body, much about even one organ within my body. So that is why in Abhidhamma Kosha, in some sutra, Buddha advised as an antidote to the pride, meditating on the you know, the aggregates for the 4 elements, you know, 12 sense faculty and so forth, or 18 elements. So different, there are different kind of different way of dividing into different categories and different numbers, and then meditating on those. So that was where I was mentioning. Yeah. So we are talking about managing the defilements or afflictive emotions and making it less and less powerful, making it powerless through those different practice and meditations. So the second step is much more better than the first step. The first step is you recognize your defilements, the enemy. Second point, you go further than that. Now you have made your enemy, internal enemy, powerless. Or not so powerful. But still, it is still there. It is powerless, but it's still there. Even though it doesn't have the same power, but it's still there. And since it's still there, still there's a danger of it kind of gathering its forces and becoming more powerful. Still there is danger that it can still hurt and harm in a subtle way. Maybe not so much as before because it is less powerful, but still it can still hurt, harm in some way. And there is danger that it can kind of gather many forces and power and then again attack you back. So that is not the end. And so third one is how to eliminate it totally, you know. So then you don't have to have any kind of, you don't have to have any kind of fear of them gathering power and again attacking you or all of that. And third level is to eliminate it completely and permanently. And that is more difficult than the second step. And so the third step, to be able to eliminate from the very root of it completely, permanently, then we have to eliminate the very root of all those afflictive emotions, all those delusions, all this defilement. That is the fundamental ignorance. And in order to overcome that fundamental ignorance, then we need to have the wisdom realizing the emptiness, the ultimate truth, the ultimate reality. And that is more difficult, you know, to have a wisdom realizing emptiness or ultimate truth or reality is much more difficult, generally speaking, than, you know, the practice of mindfulness, shamatha, to have that, or to have certain level of loving kindness, compassion, equanimity, you know. So because it requires a lot of investigation, analysis, and practice, support of merit, and so forth, many things. So that is the third, the difficult of eliminating, you know. So we try to eliminate it by cultivating the antidote, the wisdom, realizing the emptiness that can eliminate all the delusions from the very root of it completely, permanently, when we have that through that, by the power of that wisdom. So that is a training into the three difficult, as it's a train in the three difficulties. That is what it means. And again, as I mentioned at the very beginning, you know, as Buddha, as I was mentioning about subdue your mind. This is the teaching of the Buddha, and that is where it is again. How do we subdue mind? What does the meaning of subduing your mind means? What is the meaning of subduing your mind? What is the meaning of transforming your mind? What is the meaning of disciplining your mind? You know, so here that is disciplining your mind, subduing your mind means, you know, starting to reduce, starting with recognizing the delusions, identifying them, and then trying to reduce, minimize, and slowly, completely overcoming, eliminating them completely. And so that is the subduing your mind. When our mind is free from all the defilements, all the afflicted emotions, then your mind has been transformed. Your mind has been disciplined. Your mind has been subdued, completely, So when we are free from all the obscurations and the defilements, so again, that is the very essence Buddha's teaching as well. Then 7.1, seek for the three principal causes. So here it means we need to find the three principal causes, three main causes. And so three principal causes for what? For enlightenment. Okay, three principal causes for enlightenment. The Lojong practice is practice to achieve or to obtain enlightenment in order to be the greatest help and benefit to others and oneself, in order to fulfill the greatest purpose of others and oneself. The whole Lojong practice is, to achieve that enlightenment so that we can be the greatest and most benefit to others and oneself, everyone, all sentient beings. So in order to achieve that full enlightenment, then we need to seek or find the three principal causes, three principal causes that is explained here in the Lojong. One is finding the spiritual teacher is one main cause. Second is finding the spiritual instructions. And third is finding supporting environment. So these three are the main causes, as it explained here in Lojong, as the three main causes for the enlightenment. Causes to success for the causes, three principal causes for the success of our Lojong practice as well. For the success of our Lojong practice, then we need those three. We need to seek or find those three principal causes. And the first one is, as I mentioned, the spiritual teacher. Which means someone who can be our guide, mentor, who can show us, guide us through teaching, inspirations, examples. So again, we know some sort of teachers, guidance, mentor, coach is important in any field that we want to perfect, we want to success. When you go for any educations, we need some sort of coach, mentor, guidance, teacher, whatever you call. Same in our spiritual, for the success of our spiritual path, definitely also needs, because by ourselves, we don't know what we will be kind of lost, and we might be wasting our time a lot, believing this is the path, or this is the way, and maybe being wrong path, or, not having any much progress. So finding and relying on spiritual teachers become important, so that we can learn, and then from that, then we can study and learn. So that is the first. So even we have found a spiritual teachers, is not enough, because what is the purpose of seeking or finding spiritual teachers? The purpose is not to just to kind of hang out together, a body, let's go and have a party, It's not just for that purpose, The purpose is so that we can learn and receive the advice, instructions, to study, to learn, and to receive instructions, advices, and the teachings. Then it becomes meaningful to have to have found a spiritual teachers. Then it serves the purpose. Having found or seek a spiritual teachers, then there is a purpose. Then there is, if you don't, I can say someone is my guru or spiritual teacher, but if I cannot receive any instruction, any advice, any teachings, then it doesn't serve much purpose. It is just like a certificate. You have one certificate. Someone sign it. Very famous person sign it. It is just to show up there. Oh, I have this certificate. I have this prize. Who gave, with someone who is famous something, but if you can really, the purpose of having a spiritual teacher is to receive those. And so next course is the spiritual instructions. Seeking the spiritual. Once you find the spiritual teachers, on the basis of spiritual teacher, from the spiritual teacher, then you try to seek, you try to find, you try to receive the spiritual instructions, advices, teachings. So that is the second principal cause, the main cause, And of course, it is not enough just to receive the advice, instructions, and teachings, if you don't apply it, if you don't apply it, you are not going to have much changes. You can have all this knowledge, but it's not really going to change yourself, Nowadays, all the knowledge, I think with all this Google, it seems easy. If it's just if you are just finding just a kind of, numbers, definitions, just the knowledge itself, Dictionary you shouldn't be just like a dictionary or Google, If you check in the dictionary, you can find all the information there. If you Google it, you can find all the information there. But does it really change your life? Does it really change your mind? So the purpose of receiving, finding all these informations, knowledge, is so that we can apply implement and practice. Through that kind of implementations, applying it, implementing it through practice, then we will begin to see some changes, some transformations in our attitude, in our mind, and through that in our life, through that our interaction, through that our behavior and interaction with others as well. And through that, then we begin to find more peacefulness, more calm in our life. So, and be more help and more benefit to others and oneself. So then we go to the, that is seeking the spiritual instructions in the course. Second course is important, very important. As His Holiness says, and as all the teachers says, all my teachers says, you shouldn't be satisfied. Normally, you have to be satisfied and content with what you have. That is one of the Buddha's teaching and practice. We try to learn and apply, whatever we have, we try to be okay, content, and satisfied with that, without having too much kind of craving or, wanting more and more. But they say when it comes to the studying the Dharma, you should never be satisfied. You should always try to learn, study. And I don't remember which Kadamba Geshes, one of the Kadamba Geshes says, there is no end to the learning until you become Buddha, fully enlightened, fully awakened. Until you become a Buddha, fully enlightened, fully awakened, there is no end to the learning, study of the Dharma. Again, sometimes that is important for us to remember. Sometimes we study a little bit and then we begin to have have little knowledge. We can say the words, You say, what are the three refuge or Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, what is Buddha, or you can give explanation, Dharma, and similar like that, we have heard a lot, we have studied, we know if someone asks you can be able to explain it, and then we think, oh, we don't need to learn anymore. There's nothing more to learn it. Until we have each of those realizations, until we have all of these highly developed all the realizations, we continue to learn. Even though we know the words, we can still, by studying again, we can get something more profound, something more meaning, more depth, even with the same subjects. And as His Holiness, he's 85, 86, and he continued to study. He said he never stopped studying. Even he studied, and one of my teachers who passed away at the age of 91, 92, at maybe last 2 years, he couldn't really study much because, with his health. But until his health was good, even like when he was in 80s, 87, 88, every time he go to his, to see him, he's always studying, practicing, reflecting, And when he was unable to last 2 years about his health conditions So he couldn't stand, he didn't have so much energy, he couldn't stand. Mostly he was in kind of bed, but he's always reflecting, contemplating. And one time he told us, do you think I'm sleeping and you think I'm just sleeping whole day? He said, I'm thinking, I'm reflecting, contemplating. And even in that stage, when he was still like that, he would always ask, you have any questions? Any questions, about the Dharma, about the teachings, about the study that we're doing. So anyway, yeah, if those much more enlightened, much more qualified, and much more enlightened beings, if they continue to study, and if they feel important study, there's no doubt someone like me that need to study and learn more, and that is why whenever I get opportunity to attend His Holiness teachings, other teachers teaching whenever, and then also doing self-study as much as possible. So, okay, so we'll have a break at the moment, 10 minutes. So before we continue, I think there was maybe three questions I saw. So maybe I would like to the first question was, how Gisela, what is the antidote to doubt, please? So the antidote to doubt is, of course, studying, learning more about that particular topic, subject that we have practiced, whatever that we have doubt about, maybe, maybe sometimes we have doubt because we don't have enough informations, because we don't know enough about that particular topic, subject, the practice. And so the more you study, you learn, more you hear, the more information you get about that particular, then maybe, your doubt might be, you might be able to solve the doubt because some information which are there, but which you have not have access, and then you have doubt. But once through studying and practice, through studies, then once you have all this information, then maybe we might be able to get rid of the doubt. But in some cases, especially with certain practice or certain topic, sometimes just the intellectual informations might not clear your doubt, and sometimes we have to practice and experience ourselves. Certain topic, is like said, there's someone doesn't know what the taste of sweet is, sweet, and someone can explain what the sweet is with all different example, all these different. But for some people, they might not never be able to really understand what sweet is, regardless of all different information that you might give it, until they really taste it and know, oh, now I know what the sweet is, And so in certain topic, in certain subjects, sometimes just the external informations, example, reasoning, logic, sometimes just by that, sometimes for certain individual that might not even solve their doubt. And sometimes go beyond that. Sometimes we really have to engage in the practice and over a certain period of time, and to really, and then through maybe that, then maybe we can solve the doubt, because then you have your own direct experience. When you have your own direct experience, then you don't need more clarification externally. You don't need, once you have tested what the truth is, then someone doesn't have to try to explain it with the words. Sometimes the word cannot explain totally. And so sometimes we need to experience that. But in general, normally that, more information, more you study, find about that, then you can clear that doubt as you have more information. And then I think there are two other questions. One was, do His Holiness teacher know more about Buddhism than His Holiness does? Thank you. I guess you have to ask His Holiness and his teacher. I can't say for sure, I can't really say for sure, because his teacher and both of them might be equal, enlightened beings. If they are both Buddhas, enlightened, fully enlightened Buddha, they will have equal kind of understanding, equal qualities. That, but of course, but what I can say is, sometimes His Holiness take some teaching from some other teachers, not because necessarily they are they know more than His Holiness, but because maybe they have the transmissions, and His Holiness does not have the transmission, and His Holiness want to receive the transmissions. So not in the term that they know, in term of the knowledge itself, that they know more, or they have more to offer than what His Holiness already know. But some of them have transmissions that have unmistaken, unbroken transmissions that is passed, and which is very important, regarded very important for to have that unbroken transmissions. And so someone, His Holiness, want to receive those transmissions, which he doesn't have. And so then he take from other teachers those transmissions, and through that then they become a kind of like teacher, And so once you receive those transmissions, then they become his teachers. So, and of course, in some cases, of course, from the, if we are talking from the ordinary point of view, common ordinary point of view, His Holiness not being enlightened, and from the very beginning he's studying, learning, then of course, when he was young, then he had less knowledge, less understanding. His teacher has more knowledge, his teacher has more understanding, and that too. But also, it doesn't always necessarily mean the teacher has always more knowledge or more better understanding than that always. Sometimes in order to receive the blessings and oral transmissions, transmission, empowerment, or different precepts, and for that, then he take them as a teacher and receive that, and then they become his teacher. So I think in relation that, and then there is one more questions. Dear Geshe, can you offer advice for when the thought of suicide arises? This has been difficult for me lately, even though I have no intention of doing so. The thought can be very strong and painful. I try to manage it by thinking of others who could be hurt or harmed if I did so, and also try to practice compassion for all the people who feel suicidal. But those antidotes are not always able to make afflictive thoughts less powerful or painful. Maybe I could ask you this matter another time. Maybe. So I think, you know, when someone has a kind of frequent kind of thought like that, when someone has that kind of frequent thought, that I think it is important to see, you know, specialized, whatever, you know, counselor, therapists, you know. I think just by meditations and just by thinking from Buddhist point of view, I don't know, it will be helpful when you are in such a, when the state has become very bad and when it's so strong, or when it is too strong or is so frequent, you know. I think you need to, you need a more help, and one should feel, one should ask for that kind of help. But when it is not so frequent, you know, once not strong, a thought can come to someone, you know, probably everyone's in life, a thought might come, you know. It's not frequent and maybe it's not so strong. Maybe for that, then maybe through meditation, through thinking certain way without relying on medications, maybe it can be still be able to be some health benefit to let go. But I think when that kind of thoughts become very strong and frequent, I think it's important to have a really help of expertise in that area. So that will be kind of, I have seen a monk, I know, I think, and one of my friends, you know, and I think he was going through depressions, and there can be I think he was going through depression, but we didn't know he was depressed, you know, because it's something that we didn't know. The monk himself didn't know what he was going through. And then did some kind of more observation from some lamas, and it came out as a harm by some spirit, and then need to do some practice, pujas, in which he did all of that. But I think it was more depressions. Now, when I look back, at that time, I didn't have any information about depressions. I didn't know about depression myself. You know, I got to know more about here after coming here. I think here there's more, and also people talk more about that. And so I think, and so because of that, you know, I think we never took him to kind of to see doctors specialized in that, you know, and he could have been saved if you have gone and seen the doctor and have taken medications and then other practices on basis of that. But anyway, you know, unfortunately, very sadly, he took his life, you know. And he says, you know, he didn't talk about being depressed, but he talked about, you know, or maybe even he talked about it, maybe we didn't use the same term, you know, and so he didn't really understand what's going. Of course, he would know he was having a difficulties, and we also didn't know exactly. He says when certain thoughts come at a certain time, you cannot use any reasoning logic. You have no control. That negative thought comes. When that negative thought comes, in that moment, normally you can make a kind of, different, you can think properly, but you cannot think properly, it totally. And now when I look back, I think and we have other common friend, and I also told them, I think that must have been depression. And unfortunately, none of us knew that. And otherwise, he should have got some help, and through medication that could have been helpful. So what I'm trying to say is when it become a very bad, the depression level, very, very, very low, very bad, just by trying to think differently, it doesn't really help, because it's such a bad. You need a support more than just thinking, meditating differently. You need probably medications, some therapists who are expert in that area. And then then of course you try to have less and less at that as you improve. And then maybe using certain meditation, certain way can be helpful. And I think one of the things meditations and that can help, might be helpful in that is, a lot of time people have that kind of thought arises because when they feel, they are not worthy, they feel they are not worthy. They feel there is no meaning in their life. There's no purpose, meaning in their life, due to whatever kind of challenges someone might face, externally, internally, and so maybe they might be feeling there's no meaning, worth being, and also, worthless, all of that. I mean, there could be so many different thoughts that might give rise to that. And I think one meditation helpful will be, meditating, thinking. I mean, even day by day writing, each by one, sometimes you cannot think properly when you are in that state. But when your mind is a little bit more stable and good state, it is good to write down, all the meaningful, good thing that you have been able to do in our life, When you are in negative state, then we that kind of block everything from seeing and feeling what good things that we are able to achieve, what we have been able to do, the help, benefit that we have been able to do to our families, our friends, or through our different stages of our life. We have touched so many people's life. We have been able to be supportive and help when someone was in the needs of that, even though we might not have been able to do that all the time, but there are times then when we have reached out and be help and benefit in our life at different time, from young, at different time, and really being for someone else there, trying to help, and that thought and thinking, we have had all these positive thoughts, even though not every day, all the time, but we do have a compassion, loving kindness, compassion, wishing the world to be in a better place, wishing everyone to be happy, wishing everyone to be free from suffering time to time. We try to dedicate, we try to make prayers. So, we do have those positive thoughts, positive virtuous thoughts, positive thoughts. And if you go beyond that, then we have the Buddha nature, we all have the Buddha nature. And so I think through that meditation, having a strong convictions, trust, in our goodness of that Buddha nature and our love and compassions. And that might be sometime kind of obscured by certain, due to certain cause and condition, but we have that goodness and really focusing our goodness of that, and also meditating and being aware, life is not about accomplishing everything, Nobody is able to accomplish everything they want, Even His Holiness, he wants to see Tibetan being free. So far he hasn't been able to fulfill his wishes, his effort that he had put so much effort all his life to be able to, for the Tibetans to go back to their countries, for the Tibetans to have more freedom themselves in Tibet. He has been working so hard for the religious harmonies through different, of course there has some improve in that, but also still we have a conflict due to the different religions. And so in that way, also his wish, he hasn't been able to fulfill and accomplish all of that. He wants to see change in the educations, he has put so many efforts, time to that. All of them, he hasn't, but he has put the seeds there, a seed there to continue that coming generations. It will inspire so many people now, and they will try to work on that, and eventually it will happen over the decades or centuries and long term. And so, sometime I think we become very discouraged because, we have certain project or certain things that we want to accomplish, certain things we want to do. And when we are unable to do it, when we are unable to do now, when we are unable to fulfill that, then we feel like we fail it. And then we feel like we fail it. And just because we haven't been able to fulfill one thing, then it feels like we fell in our life's failure. Why? Because I wanted to do this and I couldn't do this. So then you feel like your life's failure and worthless, meaningless. Why? Because you wanted to do this, and due to whatever cause and conditions, we are not being able to accomplish that at the moment. But what I'm saying is, everyone's, as I saying, even His Holiness, even the Buddha himself, he wants all sentient beings to have a bodhicitta, wisdom, and still, we don't have that, and he is still trying. All the Buddhas, even not all their wishes have been fulfilled. Not all their projects have been come to end successful as so far. And so every success people in this world, you can think of every successful, they all have failed in certain areas. Some of them might be very successful in a business, but they fail in relationship. Or they fail in different things. So it is not that everyone is successful, everyone is able to accomplish what they want, and I'm the only one. Pity me, who is the only one who is unable to do these things. Therefore, I'm kind of useless, worthless. But if you see everyone, even the most so well-known successful people, if you go back and read their stories and true stories and their experiences, they all have also failed in many different areas. They haven't been able to achieve, even though they might have been successful in one area, but they are not successful in every area. So I think is important to recognize and remember that. Sometimes when we fail, then we feel I'm the only one, everyone is doing so well, and I'm the only one who is worthless and bad. So I think some of those kind of meditations, reflection, contemplations might be some helpful, you can try some of those different, and of course, whether you are asking for yourself or you are asking for someone else, someone, your friends, family members who is going through that kind of challenges. So that is something that we can reflect, contemplate, and think about it. So I think, I think maybe there may be a problem with involuntary detentions if one admit to the possibility of. Yeah, of course. I think whether someone is asking for some friends, families, so yeah, you can try to help and share that. But I think definitely, you need to see the expertise. I'm not expert in that area, and I'm not a kind of therapist, counselor, or doctor and expert in that area. I think we need to ask, they need to go in that expertise, and then of course, while they do the other treatments, then we can utilize some of the Buddhist meditations, practice, way of contemplating, and that wouldn't hurt, that wouldn't harm, hurt, that could only help. If it doesn't help, at least it doesn't hurt. And I think maybe that is all kind of. So, so we were before that the three, we were on number 7, seek the three principal cause, the main cause, and we talk about 2, and then third one, we are talking about the supportive environment. The supportive environment for our practice of Dharma to achieve the enlightenment, and especially here, supportive environment for Lojong practice, so that is one of the main cause, principal cause. And supportive environment could means not just physical environment, but also people, people around us, and then physical environment. And especially for us, beginner, who doesn't have a strong, grounded practice, strong foundations, and strong, grounded foundation practice, then we can be easily influenced by environment. If we don't have supporting environment, then we might lose the interest and enthusiasm, and we can give up the practice by being influenced by the environment, whether it's the people around us or whether it's the situations. So therefore, so people who support our Dharma practice, we should be surrounded by people. That is why Sangha is important. If you don't have Sangha, then maybe some of your family members, friend, might not share same what do you call the same interest in this path. So they might not be so supportive, So then your friends, families are not supportive, then you can, be discouraged. And then maybe think, oh, maybe I'm on the wrong path. You can start to have doubt. And you can start to feel, maybe maybe I'm crazy. So that is why Sangha is important, because Sangha is the people who have the same, similar or same interest and path. So then when you're surrounded by them, then you feel, oh, you are not crazy, to think that way. You are not crazy to think that you should be more focused on being more compassionate, more kind, less selfish attitude, being less self-centeredness, being more content instead of kind of always, being kind of greedy and all of that, So then you feel, you feel the support, and then that give you more kind of courage, inspirations, and help you to be on the path, continue on the path. And so that kind of environment, of course, if our families, if our friends support that, that is wonderful, but a lot of time, not they all have same interest and same view, but the Sangha member are on the same page, on the same path, and same path, and so that can be very helpful. So that is why Sangha is very important. Otherwise, then if you are not surrounded by that kind of environment, then when you want to go teaching, then someone says, let's go and have party, and then if you don't go to party, then they say, oh, you don't care about me, you don't love me, you care only about your practice, or you care more about your teacher than more than me. There are cases where in some cases where the students were made to make decisions, either me or your teachers, or either me or the Dharma, and they have to make a big, difficult choices, which they didn't want to make, they don't want to give up their Dharma. At the same time, they didn't want to kind of end the relationship. But then when you have unsupportive, not only unsupportive, but against that, then it becomes difficult. Then you have to make that difficult choice. You are giving that kind of ultimate, you have to make between those two choices. And so that is why conducive and supportive environment is important, and that is where Sangha comes in the handy. That is why center is important. That is why Sangha is important. Sometimes, some students feel, why we need center? Why we need Sangha? We can practice individually. Well, there are some people who are strong enough and who can practice individually by themselves, but not everyone's, a lot of people need a support, and Sangha is the way that support comes. Even just being there, just knowing, oh, you are surrounded by all these people who share the same path, same idea, same that, give you feel you are in the right path. Doesn't feel like you're off and being crazy, but when you are not surrounded by everyone else who share differently, you are the only one that slowly you might think, oh, maybe I'm crazy, or I'm on the wrong path. Because sometimes I do hear, and it has some points when some students, some people, they don't want to be part of kind of organized religious. That means no need for center, no need for Sangha. Everyone do individually practice themselves. There might be few individuals who might be able to do that, with a strong, very strong foundations. But most people, without the Sangha, and I have met so many students all over the world, the young ones, they come to Kopan, in Kopan, in Nepal, because throughout the year we have meditation course, every month. And mostly it's young people there who have just finished high schools before they go to university, or some of them who have just finished university before they start their job. So they take 6 months, 3 months, 1 month to travel before, and so a lot of them. And when they come there, they really connect with the teachings and Dharma and everything. And they are so inspired, and they want to go back home, and they want to practice, and they want to share with their friends, families, this and that. So enthusiastic, so much joyfulness. And then once they come to that, after a few years, they are gone. And a lot of them, sometimes I see them, and some of them, because they don't have the support. Once they come there in Kopan, they have support. Everyone who came to the course has similar feeling, and they are sharing, and they were supporting each other, and they feel supported. So it was easier for them and on the path. But once they come home, then they don't get the support from the family. They get the support from the friends, and they don't have Sangha there. And then slowly they feel discouraged. Slowly they think, they are being like the white goat, the black sheep, whatever, the black sheep in the family, black sheep in the society, like that, so they don't want to be black sheep, they want to be fit inside. So then the way to fit it, and then they let go of that, and so then something they feel so strongly in that environment then started to decline and deteriorate in a different environment. And those who had Sangha, those who had, when they go back and in their own towns where they can easily go to the centers, where they have those sound, and they were able to continue, and because they had more support, because of the center, because of the Sangha, So that is another kind of, while I was going, it just kind of made me remember some of those whom I met, how challenging it was, and how they couldn't continue because of that. And don't let 3 factors weaken. So, and it is kind of a little bit related to the 7-1. So the 3 factors that you don't want to weaken or deteriorate. And the first one is the trust and the respect to the spiritual teachers, okay? So you don't want to weaken your trust and your respect for the spiritual teachers. That is one. Second is you don't want to weaken or deteriorate your enthusiasm and delightfulness in your practice, in your Dharma practice in general, and especially in our Lojong practice, because at the very beginning, when you meet first time, either your spiritual teachers, something happens and some emotions, and then you started to feel so much kind of, fair devotion. You think, oh, this is my guru, this is my teacher, this is what I have been. Oh, I feel so connected, I feel very special, I just couldn't stop tear comings and all this and that, and so much devotion, so much respect. And slowly it started to become weaken, and slowly you started to criticize, and slowly, slowly. So, that is, sometimes it can happen that, instead, from the very beginning, we have to be more careful and investigating and analyzing before taking anyone as our spiritual teachers. And once we build up that kind of relationship, then it is important to try to keep the trust and the respect as much as possible, trying to improve it if possible, not to deteriorate it. And same with the practice. At the very beginning in our Dharma practice, I've seen some people when they first meet Dharma, all so excited. So excited. It's like, coming home. They feel like coming home, because something they have felt themselves that way, but in society, they felt like they were in some kind of not feeling there, and they hear the Dharma, and then it just feels, oh, this is what I've been feeling. And this is like coming home. So much excitement, so much enthusiasm, so much joyfulness. And then slowly, slowly, that joyfulness, that enthusiasm, that interest become less, and then totally you give up Dharma totally, and then you are totally back to ordinary world, ordinary worldly world. And again, so here is saying, if we want to have success in our practice, have a result, and definitely, then we should continue to keep that same level of enthusiasm, if not more, same level of joyfulness, interest in the practice, Dharma practice, and especially here Lojong. And then third ones, not allowing to deteriorate or weakening. I think it was the three vow. I think. Let me just. I want to make sure. Yeah, 3 vows. So if we're taking any kind of, like, vows, Pratimoksha vow, Bodhisattva vows, Tantric vows, for example, if someone has taken that, and for those who have not taken that, maybe we might have taken, precepts, 5 lay vows, or 1 of them, 2 of them, 3 of them, or refuge precepts, whatever kind of precept, whatever kind of commitment, whatever kind of spiritual precept commitment that we have taken, that we don't want them to deteriorate. We don't want them to be weakened. Instead, we want to make them more stronger and stronger. All this precept, all this commitment, all this more stronger and stronger. So that can make our practice more stronger by being able to keep those precepts and commitments. So I think with that, maybe today we will kind of conclude here, okay? May all beings everywhere, flagged by the suffering of body and mind, obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of my merit. May no living creature suffer, commit evil or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled, with a mind weighed down by depression into that enlightened state. May the blind see form and the deaf hear sounds. May those bodies whose body are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drink. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope and constant happiness and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvest. May all medicine be effective and wholesome prayer bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be free from their ailments. Whatever disease they are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightening cease to be afraid, and those bound be free. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. The wish granting, wish fulfilling jewels, source of every single benefit, happiness in this world, to the incomparable kindness and gather, I beseech, may all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. Tu tu chang xin chang gun jia wei, ten zin zhong bei wei kun se do he zi, xiao song gu wei le ma tu du, ba na so du jie guan du xia ben. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you. Have a good, wonderful day.